Hey students, let's continue our study of linear operators on an inner product. So let's see what our first theorem states. It states that a linear operator T on a unitary space V is Hermitian. Hermitian means self-adjoint. If and only if inner product of T of alpha with alpha, that means inner product of image of alpha with itself, is real for every alpha. Okay, so we have to prove that any operator on a unitary space is Hermitian, is self-adjoint if and only if the image of any vector under T with itself is real. This image, inner product of every vector with its image is always real. Okay. In other words, this statement can be written as a necessary and sufficient condition for a linear operator T on a complex inner product space V to be self-adjoint is that inner product of image of vector under T with itself is real for every alpha. So meaning of both the statements are same but written differently. So in both the cases you have to prove the same thing. You have to prove that the given operator is self-adjoint if and only if the image of every vector with itself is real. So let's start the proof. Let T be a linear operator on a unitary space. That means it's a complex inner product space with standard inner product defined on it. V over C say. Follow? Now, firstly let's consider that because it's necessary and sufficient condition. So first we will assume that T is Hermitian, that means self-adjoint, and we will prove that this inner product is real. In the converse part, we will consider that this inner product is real for every alpha, and we will prove that T is Hermitian. So firstly let us consider T is Hermitian. That is, adjoint of T is equals to T. Now we have to prove that inner product of image of alpha with itself. So here we will consider let alpha be arbitrary element of V. We have considered alpha as arbitrary vector. Okay, and if we'll prove that this condition holds for this arbitrary vector, that means it holds for all vectors of V. So by definition of adjoint, we can write this as inner product of alpha with T star of alpha. And by conjugate symmetry of inner products, this can be written as T star of alpha and its inner product with alpha and its whole conjugate. Okay, but T star is equals to T. So put T star equals to T. So we get inner product of T of alpha with alpha and its conjugate. Okay, so what we have proved here, if we consider, we know that inner product is a scalar quantity. So here field is the field of complex number. So this inner product will be a complex number. So say this is Z. So what we have proved here is that Z is equals to conjugate of Z. Okay, so this implies Z is real. That is, we have considered Z as this inner product, so this inner product is real. Follow? This inner product is real. But alpha was arbitrary element of V. We have considered alpha as a arbitrary vector. So this holds for every alpha belongings to V. And this was required to be proved. Okay. In both the statements, we have to prove that if T is self-adjoint, then this condition holds. Now let's prove the converse. If this condition holds, we have to prove that T is self-adjoint, that is T is Hermitian. So conversely, let inner product of T of alpha with alpha is real for every alpha belongings to V. Okay, we will prove that T is Hermitian, or we can say T is self-adjoint. So for proving that, we will use this condition that this is real. So inner product of T of alpha with alpha is real. That means this will be equals to its conjugate. Okay. Now inside this inner product, I will use the definition of adjoint of T. So we can write this as inner product of alpha with T star of alpha, and there was conjugate, whole conjugate, so we will put here the whole conjugate. So this is equals to, now by conjugate symmetry we can alter its order, so we can write this as this. Okay, now shifting this to the left hand side, we obtain this. Okay, now by property of inner products, this can be written as T of alpha minus T star of alpha and its inner product with alpha, and this was already 0. Now this can be written as by properties of linear operators. This can be written as like this. Okay, now what's the meaning of this equation? It means that image of alpha under our operator, because T is operator, its adjoint is operator, so their difference would be an operator. So image of alpha under this operator and its inner product with alpha. Okay, inner product of image of alpha under this operator with alpha is 0, and we have started from here that this is real. So we have obtained this condition by using this condition that this inner product was real, and this was real for every alpha belongings to V. So obviously this condition holds for all alpha belongings to V. Clear? Now when such condition holds, in one of the previous lectures we have discussed the theorem that if T is a linear operator on a unitary space V over C, then T is equals to 0. That means T is a 0 operator if and only if inner product of image of alpha under T with alpha is 0 for all alpha belongs to V. So here we are having the same condition, that we have T minus T star is operator here, and under this operator image of alpha and its inner product with alpha. inner product of image of alpha with alpha is 0 for all alpha belongings to V. So using theorem first, T is 0. That means this operator must be 0. So using theorem first, T minus T star is a 0 operator. That is T is equals to T star. So we have proved the theorem that T is Hermitian if and only if inner product of image of alpha under T with itself is real for every alpha. Okay. Let's discuss another theorem. Let T be a linear operator on an inner product space V over F. Then we have to prove that following statements are equivalent. Okay, so let's see these statements. If an equivalent statement means if any of these condition holds, then the other conditions will also hold. So first statement states that T star, that means adjoint of T, is T inverse. If T is such an operator such that its adjoint is equals to its inverse, then T star would be identity, or T star T would be equals to identity 2. Inner product of images of U and V under T would be equals to inner product of U and V. That means images of inner product of vectors is equals to inner product of their images under T. That means even after transformation, even after applying transformation T, say we have T is operator on V, that means it is transforming the vectors of V to V. So original vectors were U and V. After applying transformation, the new vector becomes T of U, and after applying transformation on V, new vectors become T of V. So if T is such a operator such that these conditions, first and second condition hold, then third condition states that inner product of U and V, the original inner product of original vectors, is equals to the inner product of their images. That even after applying transformation, inner product does not change. That means T is such a transformation which preserves inner product. Okay. Fourth condition states that inner product of norm of image of any vector under T is equals to the norm of vector itself. That means T preserves norm also, because T is preserving inner product, so obviously T will preserve norm of vector. Okay, because we know that norm of any vector is defined in terms of inner product. Okay, so when inner product is preserved, then obviously norm will be preserved for this transformation. So we have to prove that these statements are equivalent. So whenever we have to prove that the statements are equivalent, we always prove that if first holds, then we prove that first implies second. If second holds, then that implies third. If third holds, that implies fourth. And if fourth holds, then that implies first. Okay, we prove this like they are in a cycle. If first holds, then this implies second. If second holds, this implies third. If third holds, this implies fourth. And if fourth holds, this implies first. So whenever a condition holds, is condition 2 holds. So due to this cycle, second hold means third will hold. Third holds implies fourth will hold. Fourth holds implies first will hold. Okay. So we can say that these statements are equivalent. If any one of these holds, then other will follow immediately. So let's prove this, and we consider that let first holds, and we will prove first implies second. That is, first holds, T star is equals to T inverse, and we have to prove T star is equals to T star T is equals to identity. Okay. Now we consider T star, which is equals to, let's put the value of T star, T inverse. Now here in this statement you have to keep in mind that since T is a linear operator and these condition holds, that is T star is equals to T inverse. So obviously here T star exists as well as T inverse exists. Okay. The inverse of this transformation exists and adjoint of this transformation also exists. Okay. Whenever both these exist for any given transformation and then these condition holds, then we have to prove that these statements are equivalent. Clear? So here T star and T inverse both exist. So T inverse, since T inverse is inverse of T, so by properties of transformation this would be equals to identity obviously. Similarly T star T, so put again the value of T star, that is T inverse into T. Again we know that since T inverse is inverse of T, so this would be equals to identity. So this condition holds. Okay. Now let's consider that second implies third. Now we'll prove second implies third. Okay. So that means now we will consider that this condition holds, and we will prove that T preserves inner product. So T star is equals to T star T equals to identity, and we have to prove that inner product of images of U and V is equals to inner product of U and V. So by definition of adjoint, we can write this as inner product of U with T star of T of V. By composition of mappings, we can write this as T star T of V. But according to the hypothesis, T star T is equals to identity. So this is equals to I of V. But I is identity transformation, that means this is equals to inner product of U with V. So here we have proved that inner product of images of U and V is equals to inner product of U and V. That is, T preserves inner product. Obviously here we have considered U and V as arbitrary vectors. You can mention here that let U and V belongings to V be arbitrary. And since this condition holds for arbitrary, so it holds for all U, V belongings to V. Followed? Now we will prove that third implies fourth. Now we will consider that T preserves inner product, and we will prove that it also preserves the norm. So it's pretty simple. Norm of T of U. We consider it square. It would be equals to, by definition of norm, inner product of T of U with itself. Okay. Now according to the condition number 3, T preserves inner product, so this would be equals to inner product of images of TU with TU would be equals to vector, inner product of vectors, that means inner product of u with u, and this is equals to norm of u square. So taking positive square roots, we get norm of t of u is equals to norm of u, that means t preserves norm. Now we will prove that fourth implies first, that means t preserves the norm, and we have to prove that t star is equals to t inverse. Now norm of t of u is equals to norm of u, and we have to prove t star is equals to t inverse. Okay, so for proving this, we consider the condition 4, that is norm of t of u is equals to norm of u. Squaring both sides, we get inner product of t of u with t of u equals to inner product of u with u, and by definition of adjoint, this can be written as t star t of u and its inner product with u is equals to inner product of u with u. Here we are having operator, right? That means first vector is actually the image of a vector under an operator. So here we should also have operator. To simplify this, to club this, so I can write this as I of u and its inner product with u, because I is an identity operator and image of u under I would be equals to u itself. Clear? Now shifting this on left hand side, we can write this as, okay. Now again, using the properties of linear transformation, we can simplify this as, okay. Now here comes the tricky part. So say this is the operator t, because we know that t is operator, t star adjoint of t is an operator, and since these both are operators, that means their domain and codomain are same, that is V. So their composition is very well defined, and this becomes an operator, and minus I is also an operator, so this whole expression of operators will become an operator. So let's name this as t. So t is an operator. Now I'll prove that this t is self-adjoint. So t star is equals to, let's name this as t1. So t1 star is equals to t star t minus I and its adjoint, which is equals to, by properties of adjoint, this can be written as t star t and its adjoint minus I star, which is equals to, we know that A B adjoint is equals to B adjoint A adjoint. We can consider A and B as operators, so t star star minus I star. This is equals to t star star is t minus I star is I. Identity is a self-adjoint operator. Always remember that I is a self-adjoint operator. We can easily prove this. I of u and its inner product with V, by definition of adjoint, this can be written as u I star V. So here I star is adjoint of I. We will prove that this adjoint is equals to I itself. Also I of u and its inner product with V can be written as I of u is u and its inner product with V. When LHS is same, then RHS is also same, and RHS is same, that means this can be written as because we have to compare the operators, so I can write V as I of V because I is identity operator. So I of V will be equals to V itself. So comparing RHS and using the property of uniqueness of adjoint, both are adjoint of I now, and adjoint is always unique, so that means I star is equals to I. So T1 star is equals to T1. Therefore T1 is self-adjoint. Why I am proving this, that this is self-adjoint operator? Here you have to focus that the fourth condition, let's have a look on this statement. This condition holds for all u belongings to V. Okay, and we have derived this condition using this very condition. Okay, so it also holds for all u belongings to V. That means under T1, image of every vector u and its inner product with itself. Okay, under this T1 operator, T1, inner product of image of u with u is equals to 0 for all u belongings to V. And T1 we have proved that this is a self-adjoint operator. So here we will use again one of the theorems we have proved in previous lectures, that if T is a self-adjoint linear transformation on an inner product space V over F, then this inner product is 0 if and only if T is equals to 0. So here we have the same condition. T1 is self-adjoint as mentioned in this theorem, and this inner product is 0. So this is possible if and only if this operator T1 is 0. So using theorem 2, T1 must be equals to 0. But what was our T1? T1 was T star T minus I. So that means T star T minus I equals to 0. That is T star T is equals to I. Okay. But we have to prove that T star is equals to T inverse. That means T inverse exists. So post multiplying both sides with T inverse. So T star T inverse is equals to I T inverse. This is equals to RHS becomes T inverse, and by associative property this will becomes identity, and this will become T star, and this is equals to T inverse. So T inverse is equals to T star is equals to T inverse, and this was required to be proved. Okay, so we have proved that all these 4 statements are equivalent. Okay, thanks for watching.